a dilation is a similarity transformation. In the figure shown, triangle XYZ is the blank of triangle ABC. Does anybody remember what it's called before or after you translate a figure? What is it called? Figure. Or after you perform a transformation. What's it called? That'll be a test from like 8th grade. Not a product. Starts with an I. Image. Who said that? Good job. Okay, so your image is the figure after a transformation has been applied, whether it's been translated, rotated, whatever. And usually how we denote that something is the image is you put a little tick mark on it. Okay, had this been A still, it would be A with a little tick mark. In this case, they used a completely different variable, which is fine. Okay, so triangle ABC is the blank of triangle XYZ. What would that be called? So what's the original shape called? Yuvraj, do you know it? So if the transformed figure is called the image, what do we think the original figure would be called? Pre-image. You're right. Okay, the center of dilation is called the what? Starts with the O. Origin. Okay, and the scale factor of the dilation is represented by the variable K. And in this case, it would be XY over AB, or any of the sides that correspond to each other. So it could be XY over AB, it could be XZ over AC, or it could be what? YZ over BC. So remember, scale factor equals what? What do we remember about scale factor? Scale factor equals what? New over old, or your image over your pre-image. Okay, that is how you get the scale factor. You take your image over your pre-image, or your new over your old, and that is how you get scale factor. Okay, and most commonly, scale factor is referred to as the variable K. Okay, next little part, you can describe a dilation with respect to the origin with the notation XY yields KX, KY, where K is the scale factor. Anybody else's Apple Watch always tell them to breathe? Like, am I dead? Okay. Anyway, sorry. Side note. It's like, breathe. Take a deep moment, or take a moment to take a deep breath. Okay. So, if I'm taking a breath, is it my heartbeat low?
I think it's
or
some
high?
sort of relaxation feature.
Maybe it wants you to breathe more.
Okay.
I think it does that every once in a while.
It's just like always when I'm like the most interactive, and it's telling me to breathe.
Maybe because when you're talking, you're not really like inhaling.
Okay.
Okay.
0 is less than K, which is less than 1. Okay, so when your K value is positive and it's representing a fraction, okay, then the dilation is a reduction. Okay, so if I'm multiplying a number times 1/2 or 1/4 or 1/8 or 5/6 or whatever, that number is going to be smaller than it originally was because I am reducing my original value. Okay, if K is greater than 1, so maybe it's 5/4 or 8 or 2 or whatever, then the dilation is an enlargement. Okay, So it's either a reduction or an enlargement. So if it's a fraction between 0 and 1, it's being reduced. If it's a number greater than 1, then it is being enlarged. Okay? So when you dilate a triangle, all you're doing, or anything for that matter, all you're doing is taking your x and your y value and multiplying it by the scale factor. Okay, so if I had the point 2, 2, and I had a scale factor of 3, then my new point would be what? 6, 6. All you're doing is literally taking your scale factor times your x and your y. Okay, so dilate ABC with a scale factor of 2 from the origin. Label the image and write the dilation of each vertex below. So if I have a scale factor of 2, am I enlarging my figure or reducing it? Enlarging. So it should be getting bigger. Okay, but first I need to figure out what my original points are. Okay, what is A currently? Negative 1, 1. What is B currently? 2, 2. And C? 3, 0. Okay, now I need to take each of my x's and y's and multiply them by 2. So I have negative 1 times 2, 1 times 2, 2 times 2, 2 times 2, 3 times 2, 0 times 2. So what would be my new figure for A? Negative 2, 2. For B? 4, 4. And C? 6, 0. So now plot your new points. And label them appropriately, so it should be A with a little tick mark, because the little tick mark denotes that that's the image. And you can just guesstimate where C prime would be. And then use your straight edge to draw your new triangle. What do you notice about your image and your pre-image? Correct, they are similar. But what else? They're the same shape. They're not the same size. Anything else? What were you going to say, Dominique? They have the same slopes. Okay? So, if you get a wonky figure and say that C prime somehow ended up down here, okay, your lines wouldn't line up anymore. Okay? So, they should always still be parallel. If they're not parallel, you made a mistake somewhere. Okay? So, make sure, obviously it's not going to be perfect when sometimes you freehand your sketches. Okay? But they should be parallel or the same slope. If they're not, then we made a mistake somewhere. Okay, so that's one way to check your drawing. Okay, dilate pentagon JKLMN with a scale factor of 1/2 from the origin. If it's a scale factor of 1/2, what's happening? Reducing it, so a reduction. Okay, where is J currently? Point J. Is it 8? Yeah, I think it's 7. Negative 7, 3. Where is K? I'm counting 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. K, what's K? Negative 5, 7. L. Negative 1, 5. M. 1, 1. And N. Okay. and I need to multiply x and y by 1/2. Okay, so what is j prime going to be? -3.5, 1.5. What is k prime going to be? -2.5, 3.5. L prime. -0.5, +2.5. M prime. 0.5, 0.5. And N prime? Awesome. Okay, now let's graph it. You're gonna have to do a little guessing, but it's okay. Okay, so again, if you do it right, your lines inside should all look parallel. That's how you will know if you made a mistake somewhere. Questions on the first page? No? Okay, this is when you need your straight edge. Okay, now we are going to dilate our own triangles. Okay, so pick a vertex of the triangle. Okay, measure the distance from the center of dilation to the vertex you choose. There on the table. Okay, these are just the steps. Okay, then after you've measured from the center of dilation to each of your vertexes, you would multiply the distance by the value of the scale factor. Okay, and then you will you will do this 3 times because we have 3 sides, and then you'll label your new vertices. So, putting our steps into action, take one of your vertices. Let's start with B. Measure the distance between A and B to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. So, measure from A to B to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. If you need to draw a line, that's fine. What is the distance of A to B? 3.5? Okay, 3.5 centimeters. Okay, now repeat this to each of the other points. Okay, so draw a line from A to D. Irby, what was wrong with that one? Oh, but can you use just the inside? Let me see. Wait, what? I don't even know where this came from. Here, you can have mine. Okay, so measure from A to D. What's that distance? What's the measure from A to D?
7.2.
Are y'all sure? From A to D? The key said 6.7. It's definitely over 7?
Definitely over 7.
Okay, so 7.2. I don't have a ruler anymore. And then from A to C is 3.3.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's write our lengths out to the side. So AB is 3.5 centimeters. AD equals 7.2 centimeters. Guys, AC equals 3.3 centimeters. Okay, we want to dilate with a scale factor of 2. So now, multiply each of your lengths by 2. This distance is going to represent AB prime, AD prime, and AC prime. So what is the distance of AB prime? 7 centimeters. AD prime? 14.4. AC prime? Okay, so we know that we need to use point A. Okay, it needs to include your original point, because now that original point in this case, because we had a scale factor of 2, is going to be a what? What would B be in relation to AB prime? Starts with an M. Kinda, different M. Midpoint. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now start at A. You know that A to B prime needs to be 7 centimeters. Okay, it needs to include B. So you're just extending your line now to 7 centimeters. Or doubling your line, the length of your line. Okay, same thing with D to AD prime. D is now the midpoint. You're extending this to 14.4. Well, that's way out here. Make sure you label your points. Okay, and then do the same thing with AC prime, which is going to be 6.6. And then once you have your 3 new points, draw your triangle. So again, your lines should be parallel with each other. Any questions with dilating a figure? You'll have to do this on your skills check today as well. So make sure you ask if you have questions. If you do not label your new points with your tick marks to denote that it is the image, you will get points counted off. So make sure you have your new points labeled appropriately. Questions on drawing a triangle that's been dilated? Okay, so 2 important things that you have to remember when it comes to similar triangles. This will be extremely important with proofs as well. Okay, in similar triangles, corresponding angles are always congruent. Corresponding angles are always congruent. So if you guys were referencing our diagram in number 3, what would that mean? Corresponding angles are always congruent. Somebody give me an example of that in number 3. Angle B and angle B prime would be congruent. Angle C and C prime would be congruent. So if you want to write that as a reference, you can. Okay, so corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, remember that they don't always have to be labeled with the same variables. Okay, in other words, looking at our first picture here, angle A would be congruent to angle X because those two correspond. Angle B would be congruent to Y because those two correspond, C and Z, etc. Okay, it's obviously easier to see when it's labeled with the same letter. Okay, the second thing is corresponding sides are always proportional. Corresponding side lengths are always proportional by the scale factor. Okay, in other words, their ratios are always equal to each other. So, BC over B prime C prime, actually I should switch that because it's new over old, sorry. B prime C prime over BC has to be equal to B prime D prime over BD. Okay, so the ratios have to be equal to each other or proportional. By the scale factor. So they all should reduce to the same scale factor. If the side lengths don't reduce to the same scale factor, then they aren't similar. So side lengths have to be proportional, corresponding angles have to be congruent. Okay? So before we start solving for corresponding side lengths and angles, we need to do a little bit of review for how to solve proportions. Okay, how do we solve proportions? Cross multiply and divide. Okay, so when you cross multiply and divide, so here we have 2 times 3 minus x equals 4 times x plus 3. Distribute across first, so 6 minus 2x equals 4x plus 12. Solve for x. What did you guys get for x? -1. Okay, same thing on number 2, cross multiply and divide. So you have x minus 2 times x plus 6 equals x plus 3, x minus 4. What do you have to do here? What do we call this when we have to multiply this out? Starts with an F, it's not factoring. FOIL! Remember, your first times your first time is the last. Okay, so x times x is going to give me x times positive 6. 6x, negative 2 times x. Negative 2 times 6. Okay, let's do the same thing over here. X times x. X times negative 4. 3 times x. 3 times negative 4. Negative 12. Combine your like terms on each side. So I have x squared plus 4x minus 12 equals x squared minus x minus 12. Okay, I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides, so those will cancel. And then I'm just solving a linear problem. So add x. So I have 5x equals what? 0. So what does x equal? 0. questions on cross multiplying, dividing, proportions? No? Okay, the next part is solving for ratios. Okay, solving for ratios is really important that you pay attention to the order, otherwise you'll do it in reverse and get it wrong. When it says x 2y, that could also be written like this, and it's also written like this. Okay, all three of these things mean the same, but if you switch it, then you'll get it wrong. Okay, so pay attention. The first one listed goes on in the numerator, or the first one listed goes before the, I think that's called a semicolon, I think, or colon? Colon. Okay, and then the second term goes second or on the bottom. Okay, so all three of those things mean the same thing. So if we're looking to solve this ratio for x over y, okay, we need to make sure that that is how our terms are written and organized. So what's the first thing that I could do? So if I need to get x over y, right now I have x, so how am I going to get y over here? Divide by y. So now I have 14, x over y equals 8. So now how am I going to get x and y by itself? Divide by 14. So x over y really equals what? 8 over 14, which simplifies to 4 over 7. Okay, so when it's set up as a proportion, what do you think we need to do? Cross multiply. And we need to get it into the form of x over y. Okay, so currently we have 3 times x plus 4y equals 4 times x minus y. Distribute. 3x plus 12y equals 4x minus 4y. Thanks. Okay, if we need to get it to x over y, we need to get all of our terms on the same side. So all of our x's need to get on a side, all of our y's need to get on a side. So if I subtract 3x, okay, then I have 12y equals x minus 4y. Add 4y. So now I have 16y equals x. So how am I going to get x over y? Divide by y. So now I have 16 equals x over y. So had you flipped it, you would end up with 1/16. So it's always going to be the reciprocal if you do it wrong. So make sure you stay organized and finish with whatever it looks like. So you need to make sure that x is over y before you say that you're done, not y over x. Questions over solving ratios? Okay. Number 4, A, B, C, D is similar to J, K, L, M. Find x. Because they're similar, what two things stand true? The sides are proportional and the angles are congruent. So if the sides are proportional, okay, what is true? How could I set up my proportion? Let's say we do big over small. What is my proportion? 4x minus 12 over 2x plus 2 is equal to what? 4x over 3x. Okay, solve for x. See if you can solve for x. remember, if it's easier, reduce your fractions before you cross multiply. In this case, you can cross out an x because 4 times x over 3 times x, that cancels. What'd you guys get for x? What'd you get? 11. Questions on 4? Questions? Okay, last one. The ratio of AB to BC, so which number goes in my numerator? Or which segment? AB is 3 to 4. Solve for x. Okay, so if we know that the ratio has to be 3 to 4, okay, that's our scale factor. How do I set up the remaining piece? What is AB? 45. What is BC? 4x plus 20. How am I going to solve this? Cross, multiply, and divide. What does x equal? 10. Okay, here is a question for you. If your side length has to be in the ratio of 3/4, okay, what would be the length of AC? I lied. You can't solve for that. Just kidding. I lied. You would need another triangle. Never mind. Okay. Any questions on this? Any questions on multiplying and finding your new point? No? Where did you get that from?
My big sis got it for me and
Well, that's incredible.
yeah.
Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, if my scale factor is in between 0 and 1, what's going to happen? Guys, a reduction. If my scale factor is greater than 1, what's going to happen? Enlargement. Which is the only transformation that doesn't produce congruent figures? Dilations. What are the 2 most important things about similar figures? Sides are proportional and corresponding angles are congruent. What is my original image called?
Pre-image.
Pre-image. What is my transformed shape called?
Image.
Image. What is my center of dilation called? Origin. I think that is it. Okay. I'll hand out the assignment. You're going to have 30 minutes to work on it, and then the last 20 minutes we will take our skills check. I will also hand back your test from last week. Retest will be Monday, B block of Mega Lunch, or Monday after school. Okay, there is no morning because I have soccer practice. So, B block of Mega Lunch or after school. If there's conflict, you need to let me know in advance so that I can get you sorted and signed up with a different teacher. Okay, so those are the retest days. I sent the email home a little while ago. The retest reviews can be found on our class website, and they have got to be signed, ready to go, no later than Friday. Okay, the last test was kind of crazy with retest reviews not getting signed. Okay, we're back in action. There's no divide over Thanksgiving break this time, so retest reviews have got to be signed and ready to go by Friday. Got it?
Yeah.
Sweet.